Long ago, in the swamps of Colorado, there lived a noble race known as the Ogres. Head of this race was the great King Shrek, who loved and cared for all of his subjects, except for Pinocchio because he's a creepy bastard. All was well with the Ogres until one fateful day when the Rhodocks attacked.
What are you doing in my swamp? What are you doing in my swamp?
House Shrek fought bravely, but they were no match for the numerical superiority of the mighty Rhodocks kingdom. As their last remaining fortress fell, the remnants of House Shrek scattered to the far corners of Colorado, and as the generations passed, they slowly forgot about the history and gradually lost their culture, as well as their luscious green skin. The year is 1257, and the last remaining member of House Shrek, Sir Dhrek, is working as a mercenary for the butter fetishist King Harlaus. He fights many battles in the service of the Sweedians against the Rhodocks scum, and even storms the walls of the formidable CommieG castle with his king. Eventually though, they get into a battle that they cannot win against the majority of the Rhodocks army. The men fight bravely, but are horrifically outnumbered. In the end, Harlaus is defeated, and Sir Dhrek barely escapes with his life. While on the run, he picks up a couple of peasants from the nearby villages as travelling companions, and one of them tells him of a tournament in the nearby Rhodocks town of Oxhill. Okhal. This one, and decides to investigate. He enters the tournament and somehow ends up winning the entire thing. To celebrate, he heads to the tavern and proceeds to spend every single dinar of his winnings on getting absolutely steaming. He tells all of the patrons about his family history and the numerous defeats he has suffered at the hands of those Rhodocks bastards. Every single person in that bar agrees to join him in his quest for revenge, after some monetary persuasion of course, and Sir Dhrek slowly assembles a band of misfits and peasants. The next day, hungover, Dhrek sets out and travels towards the Swedish capital of Praven. When he gets close though, he notices something disturbing. The city is already under siege by basically the entire Rhodocks kingdom. Could this be the end for the kingdom of Swedia? Will this be the death of King Harlaus and the other nobles? Will Sir Dhrek ever grow hair? The answer to all of these questions is no. For some reason, just as the Rhodocks are about to take the city, and while his troops are still fighting and dying in the streets, Doggy Gravis stops for a moment, looks around, and decides, nah, CBA with us anymore. Makes peace with King Harlaus, and then they all just kind of leave. Anyway, the kingdom's safe for now, so Sir Dhrek goes on his way and, oh wait, soon was under siege by the Nords. Dhrek races back to Praven to warn everyone, and even loses some of his men on the way. Eventually, he arrives back at the city and heads to the castle to warn the king about the attack. Surely, they will be rebuilding after the recent siege and planning their next moves in the never-ending wars. Oh wait, no, scratch that. Apparently they're just all having a big feast. Ah well. This is a great opportunity for him to meet the lords and ladies of Swedia and try to ingratiate himself within their ranks. It's here that he meets Lords Claes and Pleias, who tell Sir Dhrek literally seconds after meeting him how much they hate another noble, Lord Treeden, and wish that someone would just shit-talk him right to his face. Dhrek awkwardly turns away from that conversation, and that's when he sees her face and becomes a believer. You're so frickin' perfect when you smile. Hit it from the back and drive you wild. He completely spills the spaghetti and blurts out his absolute love for her. Shockingly, she seems to actually take it quite well and tells Dhrek that she wants to see more of him. She also informs him that she is the daughter of Lord Claes and that he must seek his approval before they can marry. Dhrek thinks there might just be a way that he can win that approval. He sets out at once to hunt down the innocent Lord Treeden. He doesn't have to go far before he finds the Lord just chilling at the seaside near Praven. Treeden says hi to Dhrek and tells him that he's sure they're going to be very good friends. In response to this, Dhrek basically slaps the ice cream out of the man's hands and starts insulting him right in front of his men. I believe it was the great scholar Tupac that once said, "Talk smack, get whacked." And that is exactly what happened here, as an infuriated Treeden challenges Dhrek to a duel, which Dhrek then proceeds to easily win. Defeated, Treeden sulks off, having just had his noble arse kicked by some ugly ogre with an army of peasants. Also, Dhrek is off doing other important things. He receives a message. It's Mistress Tibble, and she wants to see that shiny head of his. He rushes at once to Caerhredin Castle, guided not by his brain, or even his heart. He sneaks into the castle and sees her once again. She was just as beautiful as he'd remembered, maybe even more so. They talk long into the night about feasts and lords, but she is of yet uncomfortable with the idea of marriage. Dhrek must work his famous charm on her a little more before she can consider that. The next morning, Sir Dhrek departs from the castle and heads back towards Praven. On the way though, he spots something very interesting. The Swadians have finally grown tired of feasting and were on the attack, besieging the previously occupied town of Sunno. Emboldened by his recent romantic conquest, he feels ready for a military conquest. He joins in with the siege and storms the walls of Sunno with the Swadian lords. They eventually push through and capture the town, to the joy of the local population. King Harlaus is pleased with Dhrek's help and tells him that he's bravely going to give the town to himself. Impressed by the sheer balls on the guy, Sir Dhrek drops to his knees and pledges allegiance. The king accepts his sword and gives him the village of Emerin and a mission to find a spy in the nearby town of Dhirim. Sir Dhrek is now a lord, and the restoration of House Shrek could begin. He sets off at once to visit his new village, just to find that it's pretty shit, and absolutely loves being raided and having loads of famines. He chats to the village elder, who asks Sir Dhrek to get him 6 bags of wheat. He leaves Emerin unimpressed with his new fief, and attempts to sneak into Dhirim to find Harlaus' spy. Somehow, the guards see through his amazing disguise, and he is forced to fight his way out of trouble. Eventually, he manages to defeat the guards and slips into the town to try and find them all. Unfortunately, he has completely forgotten the passcode that Harlaus told him to use to identify the spy, meaning that Dhrek has to basically ask every single person in the town every combination of possible phrases, which, if the guards weren't suspicious of him already, means that they probably were now. In the end though, he finally succeeds and receives the intelligence reports from the Swadian spy. He passes by Sunno, which unsurprisingly is under siege, and finally reaches Praven just before nightfall. Dhrek returns the report to the king, who then tells him that he wants him to train some troops. That sounds easy enough. Before he begins that mission though, he returns to Emerin to give them the grain they requested. The elder takes the grain and then asks Sir Dhrek to get them some cows. He visits Tibble again, finding it almost impossible to get her thickness out of his mind. Everything is going amazingly, and he even recites some poetry that he learned from some guy in a tavern.
I don't like this poem. Tell me a different poem.
Bitch, excuse me?
It isn't a very good poem.
I just spent 300 gold on this poem, you continuing the adventure. He heads to the local training grounds and spends fucking ages training up these goddamn peasants to be even slightly fucking proficient at not getting knocked out by a slight gust of wind. At one point, he beats off 4 of them at once, and they still don't learn how to properly grip the shaft. Eventually, after several real-world hours of training, the men figure out how to hold a spear, and Sir Dhrek promises that he will never do this mission again. Training the troops has given him plenty of time to cool off and think. He feels terrible about the way that he treated the love of his life, and wants to make it up to her. So he spends another 300 dinar on a poem, and returns to serenade her once again.
I don't like this poem either. I want a better poem. This isn't a very good poem. The other poem is better.
You can take this poem and shove it up your ass, Keen himself, where he went wrong. Dhrek visits the local tavern to try and drown his sorrows. It's here that he meets an exiled doctor, Jeremus, and they share a drink together. Dhrek tells him of his problem with the mistress, and Jeremus comes up with a solution. Make her dad like you, and then just ask him to marry her. That way, she can't refuse, and she doesn't even have to love you. Dhrek, thinking that this is a great idea, is exulted and hires the doctor into his service. He then sets off to win the favour of Lord Claes, so that he can bang his daughter. He finds the Lord and asks him if he needs help with anything. Claes tells Dhrek that he does actually. He needs some troops trained. No. Okay, well, anything else? Actually, now that I think about it, I do need someone to talk shit to the king about that weak ass bitch Count Treaton. Ah, now this, Dhrek can do. He rides off at once to find the king, but notices something very interesting. Mara's castle, the pride of the Rhodock kingdom, is relatively undefended. He advises the king and the nearby Count Clegus about this, after telling them how much of a beta Treaton is, of course, and they both agree to follow Dhrek to take the vulnerable fortress. The coalition travels towards the castle, and reaches it at dawn the following day. Dhrek prepares the siege, and begins to build the ladders needed to storm the walls. Eventually, the work is finished, and it is finally time to strike. But wait, the two other armies refuse to join him in the assault. They just sit there and watch, even though it was Dhrek's plan all along and they both agreed to help, you sons of bitches! After a while, Harlaus just sort of fucks off, and Dhrek takes his frustration out on a group of local farmers.
It's almost harvesting season.
But wait, what's this? King Harlaus has decided to attack a completely different castle. A castle which has more troops in it than Mara's did. Alright. Dhrek doesn't really mind what castle he captures, so he storms the walls with his king, and after a brief struggle, they manage to take the stronghold. Harlaus fucks off once again, leaving Dhrek to single-handedly defend the castle against the Rhodocks. Rhodocks. Rhodocks looking to reclaim it. After another battle where he loses most of his men, Sir Dhrek receives a messenger. King Harlaus has bravely decided to give Colmar Castle to himself after his amazing feat of capturing it all by himself. Also, Emerald's been raided again. But the messenger brings another note. Tibble tells Dhrek that they, quote, need to talk. But wait, hold on a minute. She lives in the Nordic capital of Sargoth now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, her and her father, Lord Clegus, have defected to the Kingdom of the Nords, and now she wants Sir Dhrek to risk his goddamn life to come and sneak into an enemy city just to see her and tell her some poetry that she'll probably just hate anyway. What a fucking bitch. You might be thinking that Dhrek should just ditch her, that he should find some other noble lady and try his luck with her. But just look at him for a minute. Just take a good, hard look at him. This is probably the only shiny head of his that the ladies are ever gonna see. And Tibble seems receptive of him so far. What harm can one more meeting do? Surprisingly, she actually likes the poem this time. He sees this as a chance, and asks her if she'll do him the honour of being his wife. She seems shocked, and mumbles something about just wanting to be friends, and that her dad would disapprove before delivering the bombshell. She thinks it would be better if they just didn't see each other anymore. This sends Sir Dhrek into a spiral of depression. In a fit of rage, he attacks the nearby farmers and raids their villages. But if they didn't want to be raided, they shouldn't trade entirely in high value bolter to BH. He's in a bad place, and he almost does something he could regret. But that's when he visits Doritos Castle and discovers that all hope isn't lost yet. It's here that he meets the fair mistress Joanna, daughter of Lord Playas, and it's love at first sight. For him at least. He talks to Playas and impulsively asks for her hand in marriage. And strangely, he accepts. As long as she agrees to it too, of course. He excitedly approaches her and splurges out his undying love for her. Her disgust could be felt all the way in Tolga.
Disgusting!
Sir Dhrek was not discouraged by this though, and he vowed to win her affection one way or another. On his way out of the castle, he notices that Emerald is being raided once again. He asks Playas for help, but Playas just kinda pretends that he didn't hear him. What he does say, however, is that Dhrek should go and shit-talk that pussy Treaton again, which he is more than happy to do. On his continued adventures, Dhrek studies Suno a bit and comes to realise something. The town is relatively undefended, and there isn't a Nordic army in sight. He quickly tells King Harlaus of this discovery, and he agrees to storm the fortifications. Dhrek and Harlaus fight side by side again, just like in the good old days, and their men push into the town, killing every single Viking fucker that they see, and eventually liberate the town, to the absolute exultation of the locals. Sir Dhrek has won yet another great victory for Sweden, and has fallen in love again. But will Sir Dhrek get to keep Suno? Will Trident stop being bullied? Will he ever get his dick wet? Tune in next time to find out.
Hey YouTube, just gonna do a bit of ASMR here. Thanks for watching my video, and it'd be great if you could give me a like and subscribe. And also I have a Discord now, so if you want to go to that, I got the link here somewhere. I'll put it on the screen. If you want me to do an ASMR channel, please comment below and I'll get up for an ASMR channel.